In this video, I'm going to go over the rising cost of living in Orlando, how it's affecting people, especially if you're someone who's looking to relocate to this city. You need to be aware of what's going on, because I promise you, if you were looking at moving 2 years ago and you haven't, and now you're looking at doing it now, costs have changed, things have changed. We all know the economy is just in the crapper. Recession is here. How is that affecting Orlando, and what does that mean for you? Hey everyone, my name is Cameron Hodge. On this channel, I talk about everything you need to know when it comes to moving to Orlando, living in Orlando, and making the most of being in this great city. So don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and the bell icon to be notified every time I drop a new video so that you don't miss this information, because I try and do my best to bring you videos every single week. Also, being a licensed real estate agent, I love helping you with your real estate decisions, making those plans, and making sure that you make the best possible move when coming out here, because no one wants to make a move out here and either have problems in the move or to move to the wrong area and just hate their life when they get here. So I'm here to help you with me and my team. Number popping up below is how you get a hold of me and us. Call, text, email, doesn't matter what you do. Heck, you can even schedule a Zoom call down below to skip the line and go straight to the front to sit down with me and help you create that plan and vision for your move. So into the video, I just want to jump straight into it. The rising cost of Orlando. I did a video last year when it comes to the cost of living, but I wanted to do an update because obviously, if you look at a year ago, things are not the same. It has changed immensely even in that time. Some things may have gotten a little bit better, but there's a heck of a lot that has gotten worse, and I want to talk about all of that here for you today. And obviously stay to the end of the video, and we're going to go over the real thing that everyone wants to know about, and that's the cost of housing, rent, buying a home, interest rate, everything. I'm telling you, like, your housing costs are what's really killing people when it comes to moving to Orlando. And I'm going to save that to the end so that way I can ramble and give you all the information you absolutely need. So stick to the end for that. All right, so the first thing I want to cover is the basic thing that we all talk about, and that's food. Okay, so we all know, like, oh my God, it's like what, in the past how many years we have a shortage for everything. There's always a shortage for something. And Orlando, when it comes to the many places I've lived around the United States, is not necessarily the cheapest when it comes to groceries. But to me, it's the same as when I was in California. It's the same when I was in Pensacola, Florida. Look, groceries seem to be about the same in Orlando when it comes to coastal cities and stuff like that. And all Florida to me is like a coastal city. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you can shop deals. You have Aldi's. You have the Costco's, the Sam's Club. Like, you have your big places where you can shop to get your bulk items, to do things like that. And personally, I do like, there's a lot of like homesteaders and small farms in Florida too. So if you're someone like me and you want to get like meat from local places and things like that, you can get that here. Obviously, it's not going to save you the money, but it's pretty cool that you have those options in Florida. So don't think just because we have a place of hurricanes and things like that, you can't have that variety and options that you used to. They also have a main public chain, Publix, which is a main chain. And you're like me from New York and you could not find a chicken finger sub to save your life. And most of you are probably like, why would you put a chicken finger on a sub? Well, you can get that there. So they have Publix and all things like that. So it's a wide variety. But yeah, so wherever you're coming from, I promise you what you're probably paying for groceries is the same here. The only thing that's really going to change is going to be like your citruses, because obviously in Florida, citrus is plentiful, especially your oranges, your lemons, and things like that, because they thrive here. So that's a benefit. You're probably gonna get those cheaper than if you were coming from like the Northeast. Like, I have friends and family reaching out, like, you should send us oranges. It's like, you think I got time to be doing that? Like, I'm about to start like my own orange grove at this point. And obviously, if you like things like avocados and things like that, it's gonna be substantially more expensive here because you can't really grow those here. Like, I guess you can grow a certain variety, but they're not gonna be like the ones from Mexico that are just like delicious, right? Or like California. So understand that obviously shipment for certain goods is gonna be more expensive in the grocery store and things like that. Also, I find that fast food is a little bit cheaper because the minimum wage is lower. So obviously, like, the costs and expenses tend to be a little bit lower for the businesses here and stuff like that. But, you're not really saving much money. I'm not really caring about like eating out, because eating out is always going to be expensive. And like, yeah, you can go to McDonald's every day, but I'm going to assume that you kind of have some caring for like just regular groceries and like actually feeding your family good food and not just eating junk every day. No shame here. So groceries, they're probably going to be the same depending on where you're coming from. I will say the Bureau of Economics estimates that a family of 4 in Orlando will spend about $1,231 on groceries every single month. Now, as we all know, like when they do these studies, it's always, middle to upper middle class Americans. It's never the lowest of the income, right? Like there are some support programs for people who need support financially and things like that. Like all these factors play into it and change your overall monthly cost. I will tell you, I probably easily hit that number every single month, just because I care about what goes, into my family's diet. I want to get better food and things like that. Could I spend a lot more than that? I absolutely could, because I kind of have an obsession with it. That's also why maybe down the road I'll be looking into getting my own farm and raising meat chickens and cows and things like that, just because I'm really passionate about getting high quality ingredients for my family and my boys. But obviously, I think that number is pretty accurate. I don't think it's pretty, obviously, but like I've seen numbers of people like I can spend way less than that. Like I am a couponer. I always been down that road as well. Trust me, I understand you can definitely spend less than that every single month. I'm just letting you know that on the average, that's the average number you can expect to spend on groceries here in Orlando. And I don't think that study, from my knowledge, included eating out. I'm pretty sure it was just grocery costs, but I could be wrong there. But that's what I understood. So yeah, that's about the average grocery cost. Like I said, it could be less. Obviously, it could be a lot more. It all depends on what you as a family and how much you care. Like, are you eating bread every single meal, or are you, wanting to spend more on meat and fish and things like that? Now, that being said, obviously, hunting is also here in the state. So if you want to pack your future with good food, and the biggest expense you have are going to be licensing fees and your time and money for guns and ammo, hey, that's always an option. But I think for most of us, those grocery bills, that's going to be the average price we're going to be paying. Now, looking at my list here while I'm going through everything, because numbers are hard. Am I right, people? Okay. So, transportation costs. So, obviously in Orlando, it's like I said, it's not the cheapest place. It's not like you're in the middle of nowhere in Florida. You're not in a small town. And people always love to pull up like the averages of Florida. Florida is so much cheaper. Look, if you're moving to a major metro, like it's probably not going to be as cheap as you would expect, especially not anymore. Look, the reality is, and I have conversations with people all the time, is like, most people that are moving to Orlando are probably coming from more expensive metros like, California, New York City, New Jersey, Chicago, Atlanta. They're coming from places that clearly have a higher cost of living. I'm not contesting that. But understand that like they're kind of surprised when like, oh, I'm not really saving much more money. Now, I do think you have a better life moving here because you have more options and freedom and things like that. But when it comes to cost, you don't necessarily spend less every month, but you get more for what you spend overall, if that makes sense. But yeah, transportation costs. Right now, the average gas is about $3.04 to $3.10. It varies. Like obviously, I'm not talking about Costco. I'm talking about just regular gas stations. That seems to be about the average that I see around Orlando and its surrounding areas. So again, it's not like Florida's the cheapest gas you have anymore, but that's what you can expect to spend at the pump. And I promise you, it's better than what people in like California are paying, which I think is like the cheapest I've seen from like family is like $3.99 a gallon, right? So it's still cheaper than over there. Doesn't mean, but it's not insanely cheap like it used to be. So I think that's a cost that like it's gone down a little bit. It was higher than that, obviously, in the fall. I don't know. Things are just a heck in a handbasket, as my grandmother would say at this point. But that's something you have to be prepared for. Also, remember, when it comes to cost of living, toll roads are plentiful. So this isn't so much for people like even I grew up, right? And the Interstate 90 in New York, like you had to pay to use it. So it was actually new to me when I went out west to California, Arizona, things like that, where if you saw a toll road, you're like, toll road? What is there a toll road doing here? Like it would surprise you to see that. I promise you that I can see that starting to change. Cities of like San Diego are trying to put tolls on like half the freaking highways. Jesus, like if California could find a way to squeeze more money from broke people, they're going to find a way to do it. But obviously here in Florida and the East Coast in general, like you're probably going to be used to it. And that's like toll roads are everywhere. And sometimes you don't really save time using them. But a lot of times, if you don't take the toll road, you're looking into a world of hurt when it comes to getting to wherever you're trying to go. It depends on the time. It depends on where you're trying to go. But understand that that's going to be something you're going to have to get used to. And tolls, look, they fluctuate. Like I think I've seen like 54 cents a mile, and it can go higher than that. It's like $1.80, I think, for some tolls. It varies. Like obviously, you can tell. Like I only drive when I have to for my clients. But look, understand that there are like toll passes you can get, and there are ways to cut it down a little bit and things like that. But understand that that's gonna be a cost you're gonna have to get into. So it also plays into like where are you living, where are you traveling for work, and that number is gonna play into it. You have to take a toll road to get to work. If you run up the yearly cost, you're gonna be like, wow, I'm gonna probably spend this much in tolls on average. Like maybe I should move a little bit closer, things like that. So you have to make sure that cost is gonna change for everyone, but you have to understand that is a cost you're gonna have. Is tolls, toll roads, they're a thing. you have to get used to them. Another big expense, obviously, when it comes to Orlando is healthcare costs. Now, when it comes to my family's healthcare cost, we didn't see a major change when coming to Florida from California, to be honest with you. I do think the quality of care changed for certain things. I'm not going to say Florida has the best quality of care, right? Not terrible, but in my opinion, it hasn't seemed to be the best. Like, you have availability of all professions, right? Like, if there's something you need that's a specialist, they're here. Like in Orlando or Tampa, like you're going to find good care even for children stuff. Like, it's here. Understand that you might have to drive a little bit or things like that. But overall, the cost of healthcare, like, it might be a little bit higher than the nation average. The issue I have with healthcare statistics in Florida is there's such a large population of retirees. And I feel like that number gets swayed because they're like, oh, Florida might have not higher deaths and stuff like that, but higher, like, high risks or higher, like, emergency care costs and things like that. And unfortunately, a lot of it's because we do have a large population of retirees. So I do, my thought brain kind of wonders if that kind of plays into this. Like, is that why healthcare costs tend to be higher? Because most people I see moving here that I help, and also myself included, healthcare costs doesn't seem much different. Now, I do know if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, and just say you're coming from a place like California or New York, where you might have been a low income and everything was covered for your family through Medi-Cal and things like that. Understand that potentially, even if you're making the same wage that covers you there, when you come to Florida, your kids, you might have to spend a little bit every month, like $50 or whatever, every single month. Because if you're making that same money here in Florida, they're covered, but you do have that monthly copay that gets played into it. Not like per visit and things like that, but you do have a monthly amount that plays into that. So be aware that some programs, if you are eligible for them, it might be completely different or maybe not even exist. Everyone's situation is different. I just always say, hey, you need to be concerned about that. Make sure you're aware of that before getting here. Now, if you're getting healthcare through your work, I definitely think it's worth asking them if you're relocating for that company, or even if you're getting a new company. Hey, what do you see healthcare costs? Hey, can I talk to someone about this? What's going to change for healthcare? Like, do I have providers there in our network? Like, you got to make sure you ask those questions because healthcare is a tough one because they love to say, hey, Florida's more expensive than the national average, right? That tends to be what I see. And I see some truth to that for sure. But understand is like, it's so variable for everyone that I can't give an exact number on this. Just be aware that that's something you need to be aware of because I think obviously, hey, everything just seems to be getting more expensive like crazy. So at this point, I just assume you're going to be paying more no matter what. It's just a safe assumption, unfortunately. And everyone is feeling these pains of all these things and like the struggles. I mean, heck, even for my family, right? Up until probably heading into this year, like we had to make cutbacks. Like, hey, we can't do this as much. Hey, we're going to do activities with the kids, but we need to look more towards free activities because we really care about what we eat for groceries and things like that. And we want to cut those back, right? So we had to make sacrifices. We're not alone. And I can tell you that the one thing I am still happy about in Orlando when it comes to the things I've talked about already is groceries. You're able to coupon. You're able to kind of shop deals. And if you move your budget around, depending obviously how much budget you have to work with, I don't see much of a difference from where I came from. So I'm happy about that. Healthcare, we didn't see any change with what we did. We saw a little bit increase in overall cost because certain things weren't available. I had to kind of, get some new plans and things like that because I'm self-employed and run my own stuff. So obviously I ran into that headache a little bit, but overall not too much more. But there was that small increase for sure. And then in terms of transportation costs, oh my God, even with toll roads, I came from California. Like, come on. I saw a decrease in my transportation costs. Not to mention, even for having like a family van in California, they wanted me to pay like it was like $450, $470 a year just to register the freaking car. Look, okay, Florida doesn't do that, right? Like, I promise you, your transportation costs are going to be a lot less in a majority of you that are moving to Florida. And if you are in Florida, it's going to be the same thing, right? Like, you're just moving to a different city. But if you're moving from outside Florida, and most of the clients that I've helped in the states and locations you're coming from, you're probably going to fare better, especially if it's West Coast states. Holy moly. Like, the amount of fees and nickel and dime that they just get to you is just insane. It's insane. So trust me, you're probably gonna be better off. Now, next thing is taxes. All right, everyone wants to say, oh, taxes are great in Florida. Yay, everyone wants to hop on that train. But look, the fact of the reality is you don't have income tax. It's awesome. Property taxes, a little bit higher than the national average. But there are some states that have substantially higher property tax, but it's something, I don't think it's that. So overall, yeah, like I think your taxes kind of negate themselves. Now, obviously, on taxes, if you are a 100% disabled veteran, hey, lucky for you, you don't pay property taxes in the state of Florida. So, hey, if that's you and you served our country and you're one of my fellow service members that deserve that right, hey, lucky for you, you do not pay property taxes on the home you own and live in the state of Florida. So that could be a major win for those of you that deserve that right because you went and served this country. So now for the rest of us, right, you have to understand that your taxes, I think overall, right, like California, Oregon, New York, like they're going to be lower. Like when you look at the national average, Florida tends to be a little bit higher on tax burden for sure. And by tax burden, I mean like everything, all the taxes you're going to pay. But when it comes to compared to like California, things like that, and the West Coast states, in New Jersey, New York, oh yeah, you're doing better. Like the tax burden is less, not much less, right? Well, compared to California, it is like the overall tax burden is like 15% of your income, right? When you factor in everything and like it, obviously we all know like certain things are higher, but that's about your income that's getting lost in taxes. Here in Florida, it drops down to like 9%. So it's better. But I'm not going to say it's like no taxes. Like I think it's a misconception that people just assume, Florida's the cheapest state with taxes. No, not at all. No, absolutely not. But what I tell people, because the cost of living tends to be a little bit lower than a lot of these places, their wages and income tend to be lower. So that's the next thing I'm going to segment into here. Is like this cost of living and the rising cost of living is, it's important to take a note of. But the big thing is like, hey, are you getting a pay increase? Like I've seen people get pay increases moving to Florida, even from more expensive metros, because companies are trying to move here. And they're like, hey, we'll pay you more because we're relocating everything here and we pay less taxes. And they're cool enough and awesome to give that back to their employees, which I fully agree with. But understand that I've also had clients that they get a pay cut when they come here. It might not be major. We have to understand like all these costs are great, but you need to make sure, hey, is your job or the job you're about to take going to pay you less because the cost of living is less here, especially for government jobs. I have, a client coming out next year and they're in a situation where, they're still going to do it because it's not that much, but they do see a small decrease in their pay because it's the federal government, and the federal government just looks at, all right, this is what the cost of living is in your area, and we are going to reduce it when you move here. Like that's just how it is. We all play that game when you work for the government, right? So you have to be aware of who you're working for. And if they haven't talked about it, make sure you ask about it because you don't want to be blindsided, especially if you're trying to buy a house and all of a sudden you find out you're going to be making like $1,000 less a month. No bueno. I'm not saying it's going to be that much, maybe 500, but like it could make the difference. You don't know. All right. So now the big ones, housing, the thing that just destroys everyone. I don't care what part of the country you're living in, it destroys everyone. Now we're going to start with renting. Okay. So if you're looking at renting, the average 1-bedroom apartment in the city of Orlando rents for just over $1,000 a month. Like let's say it's between $1,000 and $1,100 just for a 1-bedroom apartment. When you look at 2 bedrooms, it jumps to about $1,500 on average per month in this general city of Orlando. Not looking at the outskirts. Obviously, you can go farther away, and the farther you go, it tends to be less cost in rent. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking for the main part of Orlando, and you just use that to scale back from there. Right. And I've seen people even in the city of Orlando paying $3,500 a month for even just an average single family home. So it's crazy. The rental market has really just gone nuts here in Orlando. So a lot of people are like, I'm just going to rent when I get there. That's great. But we're actually in a situation where look, I hate preaching this, even being a real estate agent. I hate it because sometimes, if you don't know if you want to live here, renting probably makes sense. Right. If you're just moving on through, like, especially if you're a traveling nurse or something like that, who knows? But look, when it comes to renting versus purchasing, that rental costs have really gone up, right? And if you're already moving here to be able to pay that much in rent, especially if you're like me and I had, a big family coming here, like that's not something I wanted to do. I wanted to purchase, right? I wanted to at least pay myself down the road because there's one thing that I know is happening in Orlando. People are moving here and there's always eventually you run out of land. And the more I can own, the more I'll be better off when it comes to especially my grandkids down the future. So that's kind of how I look at things. But when it comes to renting, that's the cost that you expect to pay on average here in Orlando. And it's got nothing but increase. It might go up and down as the year goes on, but like it's something that has not gotten better. The Section 8 list, always packed and crowded. It's just like any major city. It's going to be crowded and trying to get into it's hard, things like that. By the way, if you qualify for Section 8, you actually can potentially use that income to qualify on purchasing a home or condo. So if you want to learn more, you can reach out to me and we can kind of talk about that because I don't care if you're going through a hard time, like there's like always a way to get out of it. You just got to start working hard to get out of it. So we've all been there. So, that's renting. It's not better It's probably looks like it's going to get worse. Like, we are becoming a nation of renters, right? The rising cost of living just forces more and more people to get towards renting. And I hate to see people just get into renting, because it means less wealth in Americans' pockets and then more wealth in like banks and stuff like that. So that's no bueno. So if you're someone who like you're trying to get out of the rental world, reach out to me. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. Even if your credit or something's stopping you, I don't care what it is. I'm here to be with you through that process. Now, purchasing. As of December, I'm waiting for January's numbers to come out here once it ends at the time of recording this video. December of last year, the average house in Orlando, like 3-bed, 2-bath, $360,000. Okay. $360,000 for an average small starter home in Orlando. Now that is down from like $425 last May, June, right? So it's gone down for sure. And obviously the farther out you go, you can certainly find less than that, depending if you want a pool and things like that, of course. But understand that homes aren't cheaper, and the average interest rates are still around mid 5%, 6%, things like that. Now, they anticipate it to potentially go down, but here's the thing. If interest rates go down even past 5%, you're going to have a ton of people trying to buy. And then what happens when you don't have enough homes and people trying to buy? Cost goes up. Simple supply and demand. Right now could be a great time to buy if it fits your situation, your timeline, because sellers might be giving closing costs. They may actually put money to buy down your rate so you have a lower interest rate off the get-go. Like, there's a lot of things that are opening right now that weren't open a year ago. So that's something to take note of if you are looking to purchase. Even if you're like, Cameron, I want to purchase before things get crazy again in the summer, but I'm not going to be there to look at the home. That's okay. My team, we specialize in doing virtual tours. Like, I'll pull you up on FaceTime and I'll literally tell you every single detail, what's wrong with that house, condo, or townhome. So that way, you know the worst picture in your mind. And if you're still okay with that worst picture, get your inspection and all that stuff. I promise you, like, we'll be able to get you there with the least amount of friction possible, because I understand that, hey, sometimes you have to make it work, and it doesn't mean you can be here physically. Now, I do encourage you in terms of locations to live that you come out to make a trip to at least travel around the areas, even if it's for a weekend, a 2-day weekend. I'll give you a hot sheet. Many people who reach out to me, they call, text, and then we sit down and we have a Zoom meeting, like a 30, 45-minute Zoom meeting. We sit down, you give me your whole spiel, what you need. We dial it down to 5 areas that you could potentially live in. And I give you places to look around. I give you, hey, here's an address. Go look around this neighborhood. Hey, here's a city. Go check out this. Here's a school for that area. Go check out this. Give you all those areas, what I call a hot sheet. And then it gives you a game plan. So even if you're coming out for a day or 2 days, you know exactly where to go to, where to drive to. You get your tour, you experience it, and then you give me a call. We run through everything. And then from there, we create that purchase plan. And same thing applies to renters as well. Like, it's that creating that game plan to make sure you kind of negate the risk. There's always risk, right? You're moving to a new city, new area. There's going to be risk. There's going to be stress. That's why me and my team are here to help you work through that, to reduce it. And hey, if we can eliminate it, we do that, but at least reduce it so that way it's the smoothest process possible for you. But obviously, it's probably going to get a little bit worse with everything before it gets better. I think we all can attest to that. I don't care where you align in the world. I don't care what you feel. It's just what we're seeing in the world today. And I promise you that if you are looking to move to Orlando and you're in a position to where some of this may have concerned you, or you're looking to make that real estate decision, you need guidance from someone who's here and has a team to back you and guide you, then you can reach out to this number below. You can call, text, email, or like I said, if you want to skip that line and schedule a direct meeting with me, the Zoom call link is always down below for you to schedule that. It goes straight to my calendar, and I will be there to sit down and walk through everything with you step by step to make you create that plan, even if it's now or 2 years in the future. Because obviously, as costs continue to rise, making that plan as bulletproof as possible just becomes so important. When I came out here, so many mistakes were made, so many mistakes that we could have done better. And I'm here to help you make sure that you don't make those same mistakes yourself. So like I said, I hope you got value in this video. I hope it gave you some insight into some of the rising costs here in Orlando. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.